Hello, my dear Franken friends, and welcome to Spookyou, your one-stop shop for all things ghastly and ghoulish. I'm your host, Barnabas Vixen. How horrible of you to join us. Curl up, invite your friends, and by all means, make sure those lights are out. That way it's harder to tell what may or may not be lurking around you. There's nothing like a good mystery, am I right? Tonight will feature a singular tale of devilish design, curated by those wicked weavers of woe. And without further ado, allow me to pass the reins on over to our vivacious voiceover virtuoso, FALCO, for tonight's sinister story. Please keep all limbs and side covers at all times. We wouldn't want anything to go missing now, would we?
I read the article. Dr. Steiner had been driving home from the medical school campus one evening and the brakes of his car had failed as he was stopping at an intersection. He had slid through and been T-boned by a semi, dying instantly. The other driver had survived with only minor injuries. It seemed a little too neat, a little too convenient. I wondered if there was more to it. Dr. Steiner had been onto something with his radical new procedure that could restore sight in those who had experienced trauma to their optical lobe. Maybe those things had caught on and been worried, viewing him and his medical breakthrough as a threat. Maybe they had decided to take him out of the picture. I remembered the first shadow face I'd seen, that pretty blonde student jogging on the campus on that long ago day last spring. I wonder if she had been one of Dr. Steiner's students. Some of you have probably been wondering if perhaps Dr. Steiner had known more than he was letting on, if perhaps he had been aware of those creatures and that his surgery would enable people to see them. Truthfully, I don't think he was, nor do I think he had any ulterior motives for wanting to restore my sight. I think he was as unaware as I was that his surgery would activate some part of the brain that normally lies dormant, unlocking some hidden sixth sense. After all, Jeremy hadn't needed Dr. Steiner's surgery in order to be able to see them. It had been completely unintentional. A random accident. I sat there in front of my laptop, feeling my last avenue of hope slamming shut before me. I realized I was truly alone. Dr. Steiner was dead, and Jeremy had told me not to try to reach him. These things were all over the world, some in positions of high power and influence. There was nothing I could do about it. I considered my options. I knew I was not a cold-blooded killer. What had happened the other night had not been premeditated. I had acted purely in my own defense, despite what Jeremy had told me what these things were up to. I knew I couldn't accept the lifestyle he had chosen and become some supernatural vigilante. I remembered him telling me that maybe I should just forget about the whole thing and try to ignore it. Try to live a normal life and pretend it wasn't happening. And for a while, that's exactly what I did. I went to work and tried to enjoy an average, carefree life. I hung out with my friends, indulging in my social life, drinking with the guys, going to movies with them, and trying to ignore the shadow-faced travesties masquerading as humanity that seemed to leap out at me, towering over me from the 30-foot screen. And even dated Nikki, the cute cashier I had a crush on. This went on for several weeks. As October became November and fall inched closer to winter, the weather gradually getting colder. Several times I encountered shadow faces, mostly in public, but on a couple occasions they entered the supermarket. I bagged their groceries nonchalantly, pretending I couldn't see their faceless black voids, couldn't feel their red eyes upon me like lasers. I actually became rather casual, even bored with the whole phenomenon. For all I knew, they were just trying to live their own lives, getting by in the world the same as us. Maybe sucking souls or life forces or whatever they were stealing was just something they had to do in order to survive. I told myself it wasn't my problem. It didn't concern me. This probably sounds callous, even heartless, but I told myself it wasn't like they were killing anyone who mattered anyway. Just the dregs of society, the cast-offs, no one anyone cared about. Again, that sounds heartless, but that's just how I tried to rationalize my inaction. How I tried to justify my cowardice. Then, in late November, just before Thanksgiving, I was sitting in the employee break room eating my lunch, watching TV. The news was on. A picture of a cute, smiling 9-year-old girl with heartbreakingly innocent eyes. She had been sleeping over at her friend's suburban home and had died from what the medical examiner had diagnosed as a brain aneurysm the previous evening. Her tearful, grieving parents were interviewed. "She was my little angel, the sweetest, nicest person you could ever hope to meet," her mother sobbed. Then it cut to the girl's friend, the one whose house she had been sleeping over at. "I thought she was having a heart attack. I tried to save her by performing CPR like they taught us at school." The friend wailed inconsolably. She sounded like she was in tears, but I couldn't see any in her hellishly burning red eyes or on the darkness covering her face. I got up and went to the restroom. I sat on the toilet, my head lowered into my hands, my eyes closed for 10 minutes. Against the darkness of my eyelids, the darkness that I knew so well, I could see the girl's sobbing, bereaved mother. In my mind's eye, her face seemed accused to me. When I got up from the toilet, I went to the mirror and stared at myself. There was a look of grim resolve on my face. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't run from it anymore. Couldn't pretend it wasn't happening. Gun laws are pretty strict in the city where I lived, but one of the supermarket employees, a Mexican guy named Carlos who worked unloading trucks in the loading docks, was a pretty intense-looking dude with a sketchy past and a lot of old gang tattoos on his arms. I approached him in private and asked if he could help me get a gun for home defense. He was pretty suspicious at first, probably thinking I was trying to set him up for a bust, but after I convinced him I was on the up and up, he hooked me up with an old associate of his, whose number I called that same evening to arrange a meeting. 3 nights later, I met Carlos's old associate behind a Dunkin' Donuts closed for the night. He made me lift my shirt to make sure I wasn't wired, and then led me to the back of his restored, pristine Plymouth Barracuda and lifted the trunk, displaying a wide and impressive array of firepower, from basic handguns to fully automatic and unquestionably illegal heavy caliber assault weapons. He showed me several guns, explaining how to load and operate them, telling me their various merits, etc. I finally settled on a Ruger Red Hawk 357 Magnum revolver with a snub-nosed barrel and 8-shot capacity. I paid him $600 in cash, and he chipped in 2 boxes of hollow point ammunition for free. The next night, I fashioned a crude silencer out of an 8-inch length CPVC pipe and some spray-in foam insulation, using a tutorial I found on YouTube. On my next night off, in early December, I left my apartment, wearing an overcoat I had bought at a thrift store with pockets deep enough to contain my gun and silencer, and began my first hunt. I walked the mostly deserted nighttime city streets for over 2 hours, looking at everyone I passed by. And then I spotted her coming out of a nightclub. At first glance, she appeared to be your typical spoiled little rich airhead who idolized Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton and probably threw a temper tantrum when Daddy got her the wrong colored BMW for her Sweet 16. A vacuous, living Barbie doll with peroxide hair and so many Botox treatments, it was hard to place her age. She could have been 23 or 35. She was wearing a designer trench coat over a short denim skirt and a white t-shirt that said Princess in pink cursive writing. Her breasts were too large for her small frame to be anything other than implants. She exited the nightclub in the company of 2 other young, overly pampered rich bimbos. They said their goodbyes before parting ways. Her face rippled, then transformed into that of a shadow face. I followed her down the sidewalk, keeping my distance. I saw her turn down an alley. I looked around, saw no one, and removed the .357 Magnum, attaching the makeshift silencer, and then entered the alley after her.
Pardon my ill-timed interruption of this terrible tale, but I've been informed by the powers that be that our narrator has been sucked into a wormhole. While our Neutronian technicians work on fishing him out, quite literally bait and all, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about one of our sponsors, Katarina's Potion Emporium. Whether you're brewing up a powerful love potion to ensnare that special someone, or a potent drought of imminent death, you'll find all the ingredients your shriveled up little heart desires. Don't fancy yourself an apothecary? No worries! Katarina has lined the shelves with her very own concoctions, at affordable rates. And right now, if you scream Spookyou into the cold night air around midnight, you'll receive Katarina's deepest thanks with your first purchase. Hurry now, this deal won't last long. Now I've been told that our narrator is back behind the mic and, mostly, no worse for wear, we return you to your story already in progress.
She was crouched over a 50-ish, unshaven, homeless man passed out against a brick wall, an empty bottle of cheap whiskey close at hand. She was leaning forward, toward his face as if to kiss him. "Hey," I said softly, conversationally. She spun towards me, her piercing red eyes burning in the blackness of her face like twin fires in the pit of hell. "Who the fuck are you?" she demanded shrilly. I didn't answer her or make some witty pre-mortem one-liner like Schwarzenegger or Willis. I just raised the .357 and fired 3 times. The muffled reports sounding like someone coughing into their fist. Her brain splattered onto the littered pavement behind her and she crumpled to the ground without a sound. Her face, reverting back to normal, a wide-eyed look of surprise fixed upon it. 3 bullet holes in her cheeks and forehead. The homeless man stirred and muttered unintelligibly in his alcohol-induced slumber. He was still alive. I shoved the silenced revolver back into my overcoat pocket and fled the alley, pausing just long enough to grab the expensive handbag the shadow-faced woman had carried with her. I removed her wallet and phone, wiped the handbag clean of fingerprints, and threw it in a dumpster 4 blocks away, covering it with trash. I removed the cash from her wallet, and then dropped it and her phone down a storm drain. That was the first one I hunted.
Welcome back, my darling deviants. Well, tell me, did you enjoy that twisted tale? Of course you did. I knew you had that air about you, that hunger for the horrific and the macabre. So, did we spook you? If not, then file a complaint with our complaint department detailing all accounts of non-spookiness you found in this video, and we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 millennia. Give or take a business eon or two. However, if you've enjoyed what you've just heard this evening, then make sure you leave a like on this video and annihilate that subscribe button. Such a small act of obedience is exactly what we need to put the food on the table around here. There's only so many days we can have refried kidney and toe jam hash before I'm absolutely sick of it. Spoiler alert, that ship sailed long ago. Now, I must bid you adieu. I've many things to take care of, and this outro is eating into my day off. Run along now. Have no fear, we'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday to bring you another terrible tale. Go forth, my ghastly gang, and stay spooky.